Hello, Cancer. This is a forecast for Cancer rising and Cancer moon sign for July 2021. So, Cancer, your ruling planet is the moon, and it is, as it does every month, waxing and waning, moving in and out of, all these different kinds of fields of emotion, all these different thoughts and emotions that are, part and parcel of being Cancerian. And of course, now that Venus and Mars are moving through your sign, and especially Mars, it can really kind of trigger things and trigger you in a big way. Because Mars in Cancer, especially, and its opposition to Saturn exactly by the 1st of July, can feel, on the one hand, restrained, and that's a good thing. But on the other hand, it could feel very frustrating and reactionary and impulsive and kind of lashing out, which it would not be, of course. And Mars in Cancer can be like this emotional outburst, for example. You're having to deal with all these feelings that you're having, and you know you should do this, but then you feel this way and you don't do it. Or you know you shouldn't do this, but you couldn't help yourself. This is the kind of Mars in Cancer dynamic that can all too easily express itself. So, because Mars is moving towards the end of Cancer in this exact degree of debilitation by the middle of July, and then moves over very soon after on the 20th of July, moves into Leo, and this tricky juncture between Cancer and Leo, this volatility that can really erupt. Now, this could literally be the case in the world around us, where we're seeing the kind of heat applied to water and kind of the heat that's occurring obviously around the world. But when you apply water, this can create sort of like stormy effects. Now, emotionally, I'm talking about here for you, Cancer, this could be like emotional storms, and how this expresses itself with you and through you and in your relationship with your partner. Because this opposition with Mars and Saturn in your seventh sign, which is a retrograde Saturn, a very strong retrograde Saturn in Capricorn, is putting a lot of impositions on you, a lot of restrictions on you that you are probably going to at some point lash out. And if you don't lash out, you probably will bite your lip and then like internalize it. And so this is something to be mindful of in July, this kind of reactionary state that is very possible throughout the month. And especially, like I said, leading up to this conjunction on the 1st of July for sure. And even after that, as Mars moves through its um, degree of debilitation by the 17th and into the 20th, we have it move over this juncture into Leo. Now in Leo, by the end of the month, it's in a much stronger position, and it's not as reactionary. Now, there isn't necessarily anything bad about Mars in Cancer for you as much as it's possible for other signs, because it is, in fact, an actual kind of like stimulant for you. It's like Mars represents, it rules the bitter taste according to Indian astrology. So if you think about taking an espresso shot, it's like it gives you a bit of oomph, right? So Mars in your sign, Cancer, is actually good for getting you going. That's a great thing. But again, if you just overdo it, or if you overreact and you push too hard and too soon, that will be a problem. Now, again, because Mars is opposite Saturn, it's unlikely that you're able to. So, for example, you want to do something that's important to you, and especially that you do something, because Mars rules your 10th sign as well as your 5th sign. So it's very much about something you would like to do in the future as well. But any action that you're taking in the present is very much restrained by Saturn right now. And the partner is a big part of that, as well as unforeseen circumstances, the 7th and 8th Lord opposing your Mars. So it's like there's something happening that's outside of your control that you cannot do anything about. And your partner, it might be coming through your partner, or in negotiation with your partner, and or anyone else, any kind of interaction with the world out there. You're having to deal with any kind of unforeseen circumstances right now that you have no control over. That's Saturn ruling your 8th, with Saturn and Pluto in your 7th. And this could be a reaction in July. So just be mindful of this push pull, this dynamic that's going on. There's a lot of opposition going on in July, and in a way, it's very much like a pivot year or a pivot month in the year, where everything is kind of hanging in the balance. And because they're opposing in your sign and in the opposite sign, it's very much about you versus others, you versus your partner, you versus the world, right? So this is something to be very mindful of, I would say, in July. So the other thing, and we can move through the lunar phases now as well, as we move into the new moon, and there is a new moon in your 12th sign, and therefore afterwards the sun will move into your sign. And so every time the sun moves into your sign, from mid-July until mid-August every year, this is a great time of every year to recharge and rejuvenate yourself as the sun comes around to your sign and lights you up again. So this is a good time for you, in fact, by the end of July into the beginning of August to recharge. But before then, we'll look at this new moon that occurs in Gemini. Again, it's sidereal Gemini, remember? So we're talking about the 10th of July, the moon at the very end of 23 degrees of Gemini, in this lunar mansion called Purnavasu, the return of the light. So it's very much about returning to some sort of semblance of normality or clarity, the return of the light. And so understanding patterns, understanding your patterns, perhaps, Cancer, because this is your 12th sign. So subconscious, hidden patterns, any kind of sabotaging patterns that you might have, being very clear about these, communicating these more effectively, because not only is this a new moon in your 12th, it's conjunct join the ruler Mercury, which is now in your 12th, and Mercury is moving forward beyond its shadow phase, beyond the point it moved backwards when it went retrograde. So this is a good time to be more clear about your hidden world. 12th sign is very much about anything hidden from you. So like hidden enemies, again, your own saboteur, for example, your subconscious, any kind of hidden realms, any mysticism or mystical experiences, being more clear about these things, communicating from the depths of your being, from your subconscious to your conscious mind, is Mercury's job for you. And because Mercury also rules your third sign, this is very much about how do you communicate that. So one of the ways you could do that, of course, third sign, is to speak it, but even better would be to write it down. Journaling at this time will be very, very helpful, especially around this new moon on the 10th of July. Join this Mercury. Again, writing, journaling would be a great way of getting this out, getting this up and out, and expressing whatever it is. There's something here that is important to you, and that in many ways is as important an ending phase, this new moon, as it is a beginning phase, because new moons, although they are beginning phases, something has to end for something else to begin. And so because this is occurring in your 12th sign of endings, it might be a good time to kind of appreciate, slow down, and take your time around the 10th of July to stop something or to end something, some way of you've been living recently, and how you can then start a new way. So this new moon on the 10th is very much about clearing the decks and starting over, basically. And then subsequently, as I said, the sun will move into your sign. You have Venus and Mars in your sign conjunct, moving very closely together all month. So there's a lot of passion, a lot of drive, a lot of ambition here, a lot of ambition to do something, and something that you're geared towards doing, planning and for your future, because Mars is your 5th and 10th sign, remember. This could involve your children, whether it's having children or some plans around your children, or if you don't have children, it's around some creative expression, some project, something that you're working on in the future. So all around this new moon on the 10th of July would be a good time to kind of really think about these things and start again, basically. So the sun then moves into your sign as it does by mid-month. And then there are a few things happening at the same time. So the sun moves into your sign on the 16th, and the 17th, then Venus moves into Leo. So it moves out of your sign, leaving Mars and its exact degree of debilitation at this point on the 17th. And then in a few days, Mars will move into Leo. So this is kind of a tricky juncture by mid-July, really. And this is important to kind of be mindful of, this kind of gap in time, in a way. Between Cancer and Leo, there is this kind of juncture. Their signs end. The sun signs, Cancer and Leo, but also the lunar mansions end and begin again. So it's a bit of like a gap in the zodiac. So the way you might feel this is, remember that we just had this new moon on the 10th, and this kind of winding up something and finishing something. And now you're starting something new. And now this is kind of a bit of a gap between what you've been doing, and now there's something new that you're going to initiate. And so this is like beginning again, like I said, but just around the mid-month, period, be mindful of this kind of gap. Now, it could be that you have to kind of just recognize this in terms of, some change in your home situation, for example, with Venus, for example, and some aspirations around that, but also around your social networks and all of that. Venus rules your 4th and 11th. Then with Mars, if I move it forward a few days on the 20th, you can see here, Mars has now moved into Leo on the 20th. And Mars is very much about, a creative project, your children, or any kind of future endeavor, and your work. And the actions you're taking now around these important, it's a really important planet for you, Mars, Cancer. So although it's tricky when it's transiting Cancer, it's a really important planet for you to really work with, because it's in a way your best planet, according to the Indian astrology, because it rules the 5th and the 10th. So now that Mars is strong, or it's moving into strength, it's going to take some time to move into strength. But by the end of July, it will certainly be in a strong position in Leo, in your second sign with Venus. And so these important planets in your second sign, while the sun is now in your first sign, this is like charging you up. This is energizing you. This is like giving you a sense of what's important to you and how do you express what's important to you. And so there's something really important that you want to express here and do here. Now, the issue is that all of these planets, Sun, Venus, and Mars, are all opposing Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, which are all retrograde. So in other words, whatever you're planning, whatever you're doing now, and you need to do, and it's very much immediate in the immediate time frame, it has to be taken into account in terms of the long-term bigger picture and the continued restrictions, especially with Saturn, and all of those impositions and all those things that you have to negotiate with, so that you do have to kind of take into account that you cannot move as freely as you would like to move, that your partner's considerations are just as important as your own, and along with your children or creative endeavors or whatever thing you're doing, as well as, all of those bigger picture, kind of more meaningful long-term pursuits that you're engaging in, and all the unexpected things that you'll find more meaningful in as well. And the big life changes that are happening for you right now, because there's a lot of changes happening for you. Jupiter in the 8th house itself, retrograde, moving back into your 7th. There's a lot of things to negotiate here that are coming out of the realm of the unexpected, and and that you can't control. This is the other thing, that there's no control over them. But what you can control is your reactions to these things, and what you're doing in the more immediate time frame, and what you're doing yourself personally, and what's important to you, and figuring those things out. So when you balance all of these things out, you'll find more even keel. If you don't, you might find that you're reacting strongly against any imposition. Now, the more beneficial thing is that Mars now, instead of being opposed to Saturn, is now opposing Jupiter as well as Venus. Now, Mars Jupiter feels a lot more lucky, a lot more fortunate, a lot more opportunistic, where there's like some lucky break that you can get here. But there is some negotiation still, but it's just a luckier, better situation where you're negotiating with family, perhaps some financial considerations with family, you and your partner's money. There's some situation going on here by the end of July that is a lot more beneficial overall. And it's relating to some project in the future, like I said, or some creative endeavor, or any future planning, or any kind of planning around your children. So this could all be a lot more positive. In other words, even though it's an opposition, Jupiter, Mars, it's a more helpful opposition. They get along better than Mars Saturn. Now you still have to again place that in the context of the Sun Saturn opposition. So you're still having to negotiate your own needs right now versus your partners, and all the unexpected things that are happening in the world around you with Saturn. So that's ongoing. And within that context, even longer in a way, the context of the Rahu Ketu North Node South Node opposition between your 5th and 11th is that negotiation between what it is that you would love to do in the future versus the bigger picture societal aspects and your friends and associations and all of those networks that you associate with. So for example, if somebody were to have a child, then there could be some real emphasis on that relationship between the child relationship and the friends or the groups that they're engaged with. If you don't have any children, then it could be just something that you're thinking about doing in the future, and you might have to relinquish in a way. and change the way you look at these things in order for you to look at that bigger picture and how that's engaging with this, with your society. So you can see there's a lot of things pivoting in July, a lot of things to balance out: your needs versus the others, your plans in the future versus the bigger picture, and your own personal wishes and desires versus society's wishes and desires. You can see a lot of things to negotiate. So um, let me just move it through the last few days of the month and the full moon. As the moon waxes, we can see the moon coming into its fullness on the 24th of July. Again, this is sidereal, so it's in the sign Capricorn. Capricorn, sidereal Capricorn, but it's the lunar mansion Uttara Ashada, ladder victorious. Ashada is the victorious, Uttara is the ladder victorious. So it's bridging this sign, Sagittarius and Capricorn. So there's this theme of this sign of austerity, of reaching an end goal, of getting there, you know, sticking to this and being victorious in the end. And because this is a full moon in your seventh sign in this particular lunar mansion, conjunct Saturn, Pluto, there's a lot of dynamics going on here that could be, you know, hidden from you, but there's a lot of things that could be very objective right now. You can be a lot more objective about your long-term plan and with you and your partner. You can almost take a step back and detach from what's going on and take a good long hard look at where you're both going in life, or where you're going in life in general, with you in relation to anyone or anything, like how you meet with the world versus, you know, your own needs, your own personal needs and wishes, and how you communicate those, the things that are important to you, versus your partner or any kind of engagement with the world out there. So this full moon on the 24th of July would be a great time to kind of really find this balance now, also in terms of all the other balances that are going on, all the other things that you need to juggle right now. And this last thing to juggle right now is this balance between, you know, you and the other, your plans versus other people's plans, your intentions versus the world's intentions for you, your immediate time frame, what I want right now versus what is it I need to do, um, and what is it I can't avoid doing. I can't avoid this restriction, this limitation, this imposition, but I can work around it, and I can find myself in this. So it's a complicated month for sure. It's, you know, there's a lot of volatility and potential um, outbursts that are there. Whether you express these outwardly or not is another matter. But for you, Cancer, I think there's a lot of things that you can really grab hold of and make the most of, and find a balance between all of these apparently um, more extreme um, contrasts. So I hope that's been of help for you, Cancer. And as always, I wish you the very best for the month ahead. And until next time.